Hello, registered early childhood educators. Welcome to our first webinar of 2022. My name is Melanie Dixon. I am an RECE and the Director of Professional Practice for the college. We appreciate you joining us tonight as we discuss for the first time the new sexual abuse prevention program designed specifically for RECEs. If you would like closed caption, please click Live Transcript at the bottom of the screen. Before proceeding, I would like to acknowledge that today, spread out across the province we call Ontario, we acknowledge that the land we are all meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations. We begin by inviting you to reflect on the unique connections and relationships Indigenous persons and their ancestors have had with these places for thousands of years and countless generations. Traditional Indigenous knowledge has always centered on maintaining positive relationships between the human and non-human world. Canada's mistreatment of the original inhabitants of this land has caused immeasurable harm, not only in the past, but also continuing today, and affecting future generations. May we individually and collectively take action to support reconciliation, healing, and change. To serve and protect the public interest, we at the college must use our voices and privilege to insist upon equitable and inclusive experiences for all children that are touched by RECEs, and to amplify the voices of those with lived experiences of being marginalized. We owe those responsibilities to the Indigenous caretakers of this land who continue to suffer the effects of colonialism. Before moving into tonight's agenda, I wanted to take a moment to recognize the extraordinary work of RECEs on behalf of the College Council and staff. The COVID-19 pandemic brought and continues to bring challenges unlike any we have experienced before, and you have demonstrated your leadership, your creativity, and your compassion by rising to those challenges. Your work in supporting Ontario's children and families is recognized by council and staff, and we thank you for your efforts. For our time together, we'll provide an overview of the college's new sexual abuse prevention program. We'll take a look at the program background and why are we implementing this program. I'll provide a program overview, and you'll also be introduced to our content delivery partner, the Canadian Centre for Child Protection. Following this information, you will have an opportunity to ask your questions during the Q&A. We'd appreciate it if you would keep your questions until the Q&A portion of our agenda tonight. This presentation involves sensitive subject matters that may be distressing. Child sexual abuse is a very difficult and troubling subject, but it is part of the college's responsibility as the regulator of the profession. If you experience emotional discomfort during this presentation, please feel free to step away from your screen or exit the webinar. You will be able to access the recording on the college's Sexual Abuse Prevention Program webpage afterward. If you're feeling emotional discomfort, I would encourage you to reach out either to someone close to you or to a professional for support. So now a bit of information about the program. Sexual abuse prevention programs are required of all regulated health professions. So your professional counterparts such as nurses, massage therapists, occupational therapists, and midwives all have programs based from their own regulated professional colleges. The fact that these programs exist recognizes the unique position of trust occupied by professionals. Legislation requiring these prevention programs imposes an obligation on the regulator to think more broadly than simply responding to complaints of harm done by professionals. In December of 2020, the provincial government passed legislation requiring the college to develop and implement a sexual abuse prevention program. This requirement has been added to the Early Childhood Educators Act. A similar requirement was placed upon the College of Teachers and their legislation. This new legislation is now in effect. This requirement is groundbreaking and positions Ontario as a leader in child protection, as it is the first time such a requirement has been applied to non-health professionals. No such requirement exists outside Ontario. The college welcomes these changes, as the development of the sexual abuse prevention program provides an opportunity to recognize the position of trust that RECEs occupy. It also allows us to think broadly and proactively about public protection and develop a program that is specific to the profession. The legislation states that the college must include the following measures for preventing and dealing with sexual abuse of children. We have to have an educational requirements for members. This program will complement the existing content learned in ECE post-secondary programs and content published in college resources, such as the Expectations for Practice module and the Professional Advisory on Duty to Report. The legislation also requires us to have guidelines for professional conduct of members with children, which currently exist in the Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice and the Professional Misconduct Regulation. We also need to ensure training for the college's staff who are involved in professional regulation, and also for committee members on complaints and discipline committees. We have a responsibility to provide information to the public, such as information for employers on duty to report and mandatory employer reports. And like any job description, we also have another stipulation that any other measures as prescribed by regulation, we would have to put into force. While the legislation sets out the requirements of a sexual abuse prevention program, the approach to implementing the program is determined by each respective regulatory body. So now for an overview of the program. The college already has a comprehensive program with the required elements for dealing with sexual abuse. Our efforts are now focused on the prevention of sexual abuse. To begin addressing the sexual abuse prevention program objectives, the primary focus will be the implementation of the education requirements for members. Enhancing the ability of Ontario's more than 58,000 RECEs to prevent sexual abuse of children will have an immediate and significant impact on the safety and healthy development of hundreds of thousands of children. So we will have the member education component, which is going to be our focus for this evening. As I mentioned earlier, we have to have guidelines for member conduct, as well as training for staff and committees, and information for employers and the public. We have identified 6 guiding principles that would inform the development of this program. First, we are looking at it being child-centered. Decisions are informed by the best interests of children to enhance children's holistic development and protect their right to be free from sexual abuse. This program is also focused on the prevention side of things, to protect the public by enabling the prevention of child abuse before it occurs through proactive approaches rather than reactive approaches. This program is also meant to be empowering, recognizing that RECEs are trustworthy, knowledgeable leaders who build relationships which put them in a unique position to help prevent child sexual abuse. The program is also evidence-informed to promote the use of appropriate and effective strategies, taking into consideration the uniqueness of the profession and the age group served. We're looking to build a program that is inclusive and anti-oppressive, that demonstrates respect for the diversity of the profession and the children and families of Ontario, and is guided by an awareness of and the commitment to disrupt systemic oppression and racism. And we also need to develop a program that is accessible, that removes barriers to participation and accessing resources. To inform the program development, the college received advice from subject matter experts specializing in healthy child development and well-being and healthy sexual development in early childhood. They conducted a review of the research related to the prevention program. The college also conducted a scan of other regulatory bodies and reviewed all allegations of sexual abuse received by the college since its inception. We set a number of objectives for the member education program. First, to increase knowledge of child sexual abuse and the ability to identify behaviors of concern, such as grooming behaviors and boundary transgressions. We're also looking to increase procedural knowledge of reporting requirements under the Child, Youth, and Family Services Act. We're looking to increase knowledge of abuse response skills, the awareness of body science, consent, and healthy relationships as part of holistic child development. We're looking to also increase procedural knowledge to build transparent, accountable, and proactive organizational cultures that prevent sexual abuse, and also to increase the ability to create policies for prevention of sexual abuse in early learning and care settings. After extensive research, the college chose to partner with the Canadian Centre for Child Protection for the online member education component of our program. This impressive organization is dedicated to reducing sexual abuse and exploitation of children through programs, services, and resources. Noni Klassen will join us shortly via video to share more about their work. The sexual abuse prevention program will be an educational requirement for current members, and it will be incorporated into the continuous professional learning program. The program content will be made available to members in a way that is accessible and free of charge. The start of the sexual abuse prevention program also marks changes to the college's continuous professional learning program. Since the implementation of the CPL portfolio cycle in 2017, we have collected data and solicited feedback from members and stakeholders over the years. I'm happy to share that Council has approved the direction to simplify the CPL portfolio cycle. A new one-year CPL portfolio cycle will be unveiled this spring, which will include changing the number of professional learning goals required from 3 to a minimum of 1 goal. I know you're all anxious to hear more, and will provide all the details once Council has approved the details of the revised CPL program. So here's what you can expect. In January, as I mentioned earlier, Council approved the CPL program revisions, and we first communicated this information to members. Between now and between February and June of 2022, we will be providing additional information for members and stakeholders. And then in July, officially the member education program will launch. So to keep up to date on program news, check your inbox for monthly emails, visit the website and read the Sexual Abuse Prevention Program webpage in the members section. And of course, continue to read the bi-monthly college newsletter, Connections. To share more about the member online education, I'd like to introduce you to Noni Klassen, Director of Education at the Canadian Centre for Child Protection. As I mentioned earlier, the college has partnered with the Centre for this component of the Sexual Abuse Prevention Program. Via video, Noni will share a little bit about the online education and introduce you to her organization.
My name is Noni Klassen, and I'm the Director of Education at the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, or C3P. C3P is a national charity dedicated to the personal safety of all children. Our goal is to reduce child sexual abuse and exploitation and prevent victimization of children through a number of programs and services. C3P is partnering with the College of Early Childhood Educators to implement a child sexual abuse prevention program. Child sexual abuse is a more pervasive problem in our society than many people think, and increasing awareness around the issue is necessary so we can all help protect children. As early childhood educators, you're in a unique and important position to help safeguard children in your care. This program will not only help you better understand the issue of child sexual abuse, but will also help you to empower the children in your care with age-appropriate education to increase their safety. As part of the Sexual Abuse Prevention Program, you will be provided with 2 resources to do this. The first is the Commit to Kids Child Sexual Abuse Prevention online training. The information shared in this training is intended to help build ECE's understanding about child sexual abuse and to promote child safeguarding practices. The training addresses the issue of child sexual abuse, the importance of professional boundaries, how to support a child through disclosure, and the importance of responding to concerns. It takes about 2.5 hours to complete and can be done in several short sessions or all at once. To help frame up the training for your work with children, as an ECE, we encourage you to contextualize each module through a professional lens. As you move through the training, consider what the information means in relation to your work and how you can incorporate it into everyday interactions with children in your care. The second is the Teach Retells Child Sexual Abuse Prevention Kit and online training. The kit introduces lessons and activities for children from ages 4 to 6. The age-appropriate lessons use 2 animated characters, Tea Tree the Turtle and Macoons the Bear, to teach kids about identifying safe grown-ups, feelings, naming body parts, how to establish personal boundaries, including okay and not okay touching and picture taking, and how to get help. The Tea Tree online training supports early childhood educators with successful implementation of the lessons and offers suggestions on how it can be adapted to meet differential needs. We understand that with the prevalence of child sexual abuse, this topic may resonate with many people on a personal level. To help you manage with the sensitive content, please consider the best way for you to complete the training, such as alone, with another person who you are comfortable with, or a group. You can take the training all at once or in multiple sessions with breaks in between the modules. You can also take the training without listening to the survivor experiences. You can also download the Commit to Kids training handout as a reference as you go through the training and to refer to once the training is complete. The development of our training resources is done in collaboration with survivors and victims of child sexual abuse. It is working together to combine our knowledge that we are able to develop resources to help increase child protection. Building awareness around the issue of child sexual abuse and how to safeguard children is critical to helping increase the protection of children in Ontario. On behalf of C3P, thank you for your commitment to helping safeguard children.
We've provided a lot of information about the sexual abuse prevention program, so we're sure you have some questions. So this evening we have with us Karen Kisby, the Manager of Training and Education for the Canadian Centre for Child Protection. She will be joining us for the Q&A. Karen works with professionals in childcare, education, sport, and child-serving organizations to provide insights into issues of child sexual abuse and exploitation, misconduct, policies, and procedures to protect children, emerging issues and trends impacting youth, and the online safety of children. Please go ahead and type your questions into the Q&A box in the center at the bottom of the screen. We do have Deb, who is moderating for us and capturing, taking a look at the questions that are coming in. So
we have a number of questions coming in. The first couple are related to the webinar itself. Is there a certificate at the end of this? And will these slides be emailed to us after?
Okay, so we're not producing a certificate for this webinar. It's an information webinar about the sexual abuse prevention program. A recording of the webinar will be available on the college's website. We have a dedicated page that you can find under the member tab, and it is called Sexual Abuse Prevention Program. So you can find this recording, frequently asked questions, and the information on that page will grow over the months to come. Thanks,
Great.
Deb.
Thanks, Melody. A couple of other questions around, is this training mandatory? When will the training be available?
So yes, the training is mandatory for registered early childhood educators. It will form part of the continuous professional learning program. So we will be making changes to the program to be able to incorporate this as part of any new member coming on board and for existing members to partake in. Along with those changes will be changes to the CPL portfolio process. And all of that is set to launch around July. We will share more information and details about how it will be rolled out and how it will impact each member as more information becomes available.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. There's a question here for C3P. So what was the name of the second training? Commit to Kids is one of them.
Yes. So one of the training is Commit to Kids, Child Sexual Abuse Prevention training for those working with children. And the other training is the Tea Tree Tells training. So implementing the Tea Tree Tells program. And that second training is about the Tea Tree Tells Child Sexual Abuse Prevention Kit. That's also being provided through education with the college on successful implementation of those resources.
Great. Thank you, Karen. So we're getting a couple of questions around, is this program similar to what the Ontario College of Teachers are required to take? And if so, do we have to do both modules?
So there are some similarities in that both our college and College of Teachers have the Commit to Kids component. However, because registered early childhood educators also work with a younger population, our program will include Teach Retells, and then we will have a few resources that are specific to our profession as well that will be created by the college. So it is similar but different. And we will have more information for members who are dual credentialed so that you know how to proceed once we do launch the program for RECEs.
Great. Are the kits provided to centers to incorporate, and who at the center is required to take the training?
So, the training in particular will be accessible to members of the college. So as part of their requirement to do the program, they will have unique access to it. Employers, the municipalities, other organizations are welcome to contact the Canadian Centre for Child Protection for information on resources and available to them.
And something to add to it might help with the question is when registered early childhood educators have access to the program, there are additional resources and materials that are made available, including a sample code of conduct with the Commit to Kids training. And in the Teach Retells prevention kit, all of the resources that you may expect in, for example, a printed lesson book are included. So all of the lessons, any activity sheets that are done with the children, video read-along storybooks are included in the access. But if anybody did want hard copies of those resources or was looking for additional support, information, or guidance, we are always a resource available to help people and connect them with those resources and tools.
Great. Thank you, Karen. And along those lines, someone's asking, would this training be appropriate to do as a staff meeting type training session, or is it just for RECEs, or can supporting ECAs be included?
So members will have access to the materials, and there will be many, in many situations, there are a number of RECs on staff. It certainly is encouraged that members take time together to reflect upon and have discussion about the material, as that will enrich the experience and the learning as well.
Yeah, and we've heard from some organizations that have taken the training that maybe do watch some modules together and check with their staff if that's something that is appropriate and people feel comfortable doing. In terms of receiving a certificate for the training, so the Commit to Kids training has a certificate of completion, and the Teach Retells training has a record of participation. Each member would complete a quiz or a knowledge validation test at the end of the training to receive their individual certificate, which is information that is shared back with the college. But in terms of watching it as a group, that is something that is an option, but tests are individualized.
Thank you. And Melanie, we have a question for you just around the logistics. There's a number of questions around the logistics. When is the program going to be available? Is this the same time that the new CPL changes will come into effect? And how long do members have to complete the training?
Okay, so we will be be providing more information about how this will work for members in regards to their current CPL requirements in the spring. So council will be receiving and looking to approve an updated notice of CPL program requirements in April. And once that happens, we can begin to more concretely communicate how it's going to roll out. But essentially, the launch of the changes will take effect in July.
Great. Will any refresher courses be mandated over the years to come?
Yes, so the College of Early Childhood Educators doesn't see this as a one-stop piece in our learning. So as time goes on, as we determine the needs of members, once we do roll out this initial program, there may be other resources created to support the sexual abuse prevention program. It's not a one and done. That's the expression I was looking for.
We have a question here for C3P. So what to say to some parents who may not want their child to engage in this information?
That is an excellent question because it is a concern of people that are, talking with children about personal safety is, how are parents going to feel about these discussions? And what we can tell you is that overall and overwhelmingly, we find that parents are extremely supportive of these types of conversations. We have recently, in the last few years, conducted a third-party evaluation of the Tea Tree Tells program, which included children that were in kindergarten and grade 1, as well as educators and their parents. And from that review, 90% of parents indicated that they felt more comfortable talking with their children about personal safety matters after the child had completed the Tea Tree Tells program. And so in introducing this program to parents, the resources available within Tea Tree Tells also come with information and resources to send home for parents. So the same conversation and language is being used at home as with those professionals who are speaking with children. And I think once parents see that the types of discussions we're having, so talking about feelings, identifying boundaries, talking about safe and unsafe secrets, they feel really comfortable with this material. It is definitely a discussion to invite parents into so that they understand what the materials are and what those discussions will be.
Great. Thanks so much, Karen. So kind of based on the content of the modules, there is a question around if the modules will provide how to communicate with parents or families if there is suspicions of child abuse. And also, is the curriculum, does it fit into the context of child-led play-based learning environment? Are the resources intended for direct instruction?
Sure. So in terms of, so two issues there to address. One is if somebody has concerns, how do they best approach a parent? And there would be a lot of information that really depends in that type of situation in terms of what has been identified, what protocols have been followed within the within the organization in terms of, is there a connection to child welfare? Is this potentially something that doesn't need to go that route, but there is some consultation that needs to happen? We also recommend too, if somebody's unsure, if something has come up, if a child has said something, or there are behaviors that are concerning, to definitely consult with their supervisor at their organization. They can consult with child welfare, and they can contact us as well to determine what maybe paths to be pursuing in that space. So that's that's some information in terms of what to do if there are concerns. And I'm sorry, Deb, what was the second part of that question? I think it was about the Tea Tree Tells and how that can be used, right?
Oh, yes, exactly. And is it child directed? Are there exercises to do with the children within that module?
So these are lessons with background information for ECEs, and it does come with some guided practice, so conversations to be having, and also activities to be doing with the children. So storybooks, there's coloring activities and sheets. So it really does open up a dialogue with children, and it's not only direct instruction, but also really does involve them in different activities as they learn about their safety.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Karen. A question here for Melanie around RECEs who are not currently working in this sector, so not working with with children at the moment, and would they still have to complete this training?
Yes, they will. If they are current members of the college, all members will be required to complete this as part of their continuous professional learning requirements. And again, just it's important that we're prepared if we are not working directly with children. We also learn the learning may be applied in our role as a member of the public.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. Another one for you here. Will the training and resources be available in French?
Bien sûr, they will be available in both languages.
Great. There's a number of questions from the post-secondary lens. Students are presently participating in Commit to Kids sexual training, and so will they have to do the training again if they already did it in post-secondary?
They will likely have to do it again, but yes, at this point, that's sort of the direction we're taking.
And so for some of the work with colleges and universities throughout Canada, we do have some post-secondary students that are taking the training. What will be different in terms of taking this training through the college is that there's going to be additional materials to really contextualize the training, information and resources that are provided by the college, including additional and very applicable scenarios to be assessing, and some additional resources in terms of better understanding some of the behaviors of children, and for those who may be working with children under the age of 4, and what that would be. The other piece is for the colleges and universities, and those students who are already engaged in this training will now have access to the T3 Tells program, which isn't something that's being offered right now through our college and university partners. So some added learning and opportunities there as well.
Thanks,
Great.
Karen.
A number of questions, again, around the logistics of the program and how members would be able to prove that they've completed the training if it doesn't produce a certificate.
So there are components of the training that will be, there'll be communication between the Canadian Centre for Child Protection and the college. So they have a mechanism for tracking participation. Each member will basically have a unique identifier. And so that will be one of the ways that we track, as well as through the existing, during the renewal process. Again, members will confirm that they're in compliance with the requirements that are that they must complete at the time of renewal.
Yes, there will be the certificate of completion for the Commit to Kids training and record of participation for T3 Tells, which will be shared back with the college. In that system, learners can also download those certificates. So if they want them for other professional opportunities or in the future, they would also have access to that information.
Great. And Karen, this might be a question for you. What happens if an RECE tests and they don't pass the test, the knowledge validation test?
So if somebody attempts the test and isn't successful on the first, second attempt, they do have the opportunity to take the test again. The amount of attempts isn't something that gets shared back in terms of information. It's only at the point of completion that information is shared back with the college. And learners do see as well if a question was wrong, which question was wrong. So they can take the time to review that material again, perhaps reread that question, and try that response. If the attempt is a few times, it may then trigger where in the training that additional information is found. And I'm just going to pause, actually. I know this is live. I'm going to turn on the light in here. It accidentally got turned off on me. So give me 1 second, please. You'll see my video go off. I'm right back.
I think we addressed the idea of RECEs are being mandated to complete this program, but there are still a number of questions around ECAs specifically, and if they will be able to complete this program along with their colleagues?
But the program and access to the program from the College of Early Childhood Educators is going to be provided to RECEs. And there may be ways that RECEs may involve or include others, but it's we don't regulate the educational assistance and or early childhood assistance in childcare, for example. And so really our responsibility is to the members.
And should there be other people that are wanting to take this training that are working with children, whether it's in childcare centers or in other capacities, we do have information about a variety of trainings on our website where people can come in to get that. And if they're looking at, perhaps not the full training, but getting some, introductory information on this issue, we do have a free introductory training that's also available on our website. So I think there's plenty of opportunities, and childcare centers may choose to expand that opportunity. They're more than welcome to be in contact with us to find out what's going to be the best fit.
Great. There's a question here. Will there be consultation with RECEs currently working in the sector to address the questions or other things they're looking to learn from the program before it rolls out?
So members are welcome to contact the college with any of their questions. And as we roll out the more information about the program, again, that may generate some other questions, or we will be adding to the college's web page, the Sexual Abuse Prevention Program page. Again, that's under the member tab. We will be continuing to add information, frequently asked questions there, and publishing articles in Connections, for example. So on our on College Talk, our blog.
Thank you, Melanie. This question is for Karen regarding the information for parents in the kit content. Will it be available in other languages other than English and French?
Currently, the language that is in the kit with the lessons to be using with students and information with parents is only available in English and French. I would encourage anyone to contact us if there was other information that they were looking to share with parents that, may not have English or French as a first language. While we may not have those resources available, we would certainly be interested to hear from people to better inform whether there should be other pieces created or if there can be some information that could be shared. And we'd be more than happy to work with the college in that respect as well if this becomes, a common question, and we would like to have that addressed to ensure people are receiving that information.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. For Melanie, will it show on our public registration, the public register, that we have completed the training or not?
Currently, our public register does not hold that type of information. So at this point, it would remain visible to a member, perhaps through my college account under the CPL tab, or in some form or fashion, perhaps through my college account, but also in the membership database at the College of Early Childhood Educators. But at this point, we don't put that type of information on the public register.
Great, thank you. There are a couple of questions. We addressed this a bit already with RECEs who are not currently working in the sector, not working with children. But for the Teach, Reach, Health component, how would they address those components if they're not working with children?
So for the Tea Tree Tells training that results in the record of participation, it is a 20-minute training. So that one is a much shorter training, and it still can be applicable. As Melanie had said earlier, that if there's something that, that might not be the age group they're working with, or they don't have a role where they're working with children, it really looks at information about talking to young kids about personal safety and understanding what some of those barriers may be. So for all the other aspects of our life where we interact with children, and even if it's not in our day-to-day, but is really part of the work we do overall professionally to be in this sector, it is a 20-minute training that would be valuable for people to still extrapolate information from in terms of the work they do or their roles in families or in community.
Great, thank you. So Deb, I'm just taking a look at the time and just wondering, have we?
We actually have just about reached the very bottom of our questions. We had a large number of questions, so thank you all so much for asking them, and hopefully we were able to answer them. There's a question, the very last one. If questions didn't get answered here tonight, is there an email that folks could reach out to?
Yes, and I would suggest info@college-ece.ca. I believe that's the email we may have published on the website. It's on the page itself. And again, you go to, what we would encourage members to do is go and check regularly the Sexual Abuse Prevention Program webpage found under the member tab for updates. We will be communicating with members via eBlast as well in the months to come. And by all means, yes, please do submit your questions. If you do have questions specific to CPL, we do have a dedicated CPL email. It's cpl@college-ece.ca.
Great. There's one last question, and I just want to make sure they get an answer. Can someone still register for tomorrow night's French webinar?
Sure. I would say we're not able to share. I'm used to when we're doing webinars and we put stuff into the chat box.
So yes,
you should be able to actually go, if you go back to your email, you will be able to go into your email and register from there if you did receive it in French.
The survey will still be open to register through tomorrow. So yes.
Okay, good.
Great. And there is one last question that's been asked a couple of times. Very last one. Can parents opt out of the days that their children would be engaging in the program?
So that will be that's a decision that's to be made by the RECEs and any other programs that offer Tea Tree Tells. That's not something that the college is looking to moderate or decide upon. So that's upon each program's decision as to how they implement Tea Tree Tells, should they implement Tea Tree Tells.
Great.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Deb, for moderating and going through the many questions. And thank you very much to all the participants for asking those questions. And thank you very much, Karen, for responding to these great, thoughtful questions by RECEs attending this evening.